The senator yield for a question.
To Senator Dick Durbin, somebody who's been my mentor and friend, I will yield for a question while retaining the floor.
Thank you. I first want to acknowledge this extraordinary moment in the history of the Senate. I believe you have been holding the floor now for more than 10 hours, and perhaps we'll go on it even longer. And you've been joined by your colleague and friend, Senator Murphy of Connecticut. And I'm sorry to take the early morning shift, but I didn't want to miss this moment in history, not just for the historic nature of it, but for the substance of it as well. I just remind my colleague and fellow member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, it was only 3, maybe 4 weeks ago that we had witnesses before the Judiciary Committee, and I asked a question, and one of them is pending on the calendar, the executive calendar on the floor. His name is Dean Sauer of Missouri, and he's seeking the position of Solicitor General of the United States. Along with him was the lady aspiring to be the Assistant Deputy Attorney General for Civil Rights, Harmeet Dillon, and Aaron Wrights, who has been approved by the Senate for a legal policy position. And the questioning went to the basics of our Constitution, which you have noted here today, and that is, what is the check and balance on a president? What is the accountability of a president under the Constitution? As I read it, and I don't profess to be expert, I'm still learning, as I read it, the accountability of the president is in Article 2, and Article 3, Article 3, the judiciary. Ultimately, the president can be held accountable by impeachment in Congress or by decision of court that some of the orders that he is promulgating are inconsistent with law and the Constitution. And the question that was asked of the witnesses who are seeking positions in the Department of Justice, can a public official defy a court order? It seems so fundamental and basic. The answer is no, of course, but these 3 witnesses all equivocated in their own ways, which raises a question: if this president is not held accountable by a court order, what then can control a president who misuses their office to the detriment of the nation or the people who live here? And that, I thought, was a fundamental question. It was interesting to note, you may remember, that one of our Republican colleagues on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana, after hearing these witnesses equivocate on whether a public official can defy a court order, came to the committee and basically said, "What are you saying?" The answer is obvious. You can criticize a decision of the court within the bounds of propriety as a member of the bar. You can appeal a decision of the court, but if that doesn't satisfy you, your recourse is to quit, resign, leave. The Constitution has the last word. The courts have the last word. And I think that's a question that you're raising today. Where is the accountability of the President of the United States when he misuses a power of office? In the cases that you've mentioned, the Alien Enemies Act, it's a law that's been around since, I think, 1807 or somewhere that time. I think it's clear, unless you have declared a war or unless you are invaded, you cannot invoke the Alien Enemies Act as this president has done. And he's being challenged in that regard. Yesterday, our friend, Senator Grassley, who chairs the Judiciary Committee, and I say friend, some people back home say, don't say that anymore. We don't talk to those people. They're wrong. This is a body where we do talk to one another, and we should, for good reason. Well, he raised the question yesterday, why is President Trump being challenged so often in court? Well, he has issued 102 executive orders. I don't know if that's a record, but I'll bet it is. 102 executive orders questioning something as basic as birthright sovereignty, birthright citizenship. And so the point that I'm getting to is in obvious situations here where President Trump has gone too far, where is the accountability? It's not going to be an impeachment. We're realists. We know that the Republican House of Representatives is not likely to ever consider that. It could be in the courts. And if it goes to the courts, the question is, will this president follow a court order if it goes against his policy? And if he won't follow that court order, where is the accountability? Where is the check and balance? Where is the constitutional framework, which is supposed to be at the foundation of this democracy? I think you're raising important questions. In the Insurrection Act, the use of our military for political purposes is a frightening prospect. It's something we have avoided throughout our history and should continue to. And I just commend you for raising this point because I believe it's timely. It's as timely as the questions that we asked of these Department of Justice nominees about the enforceability of court orders. And the question is now, will the American people speak up? I'm counting on some of our Republican friends to speak up too. Throughout history, there have been moments when the party other than the president's party showed extreme courage, political courage, and spoke up. We need that kind of voice now. I thank you for raising that on the floor this morning. My question to you is, at this moment in time, as we ask these nominees whether they would follow a court order or defy a court order, doesn't that get to the basics of our constitutional democracy?
Yes, 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 it does. I mean, you put forth this litany that where we have to ask ourselves is, at what point do my colleagues in the House or the Senate and the Republican Party say, enough, enough?